Hello, everyone. I'm Alex Rozenfeld, founder of Freshwater Investments, and my guest today is Ilya Vinogradsky, the co-founder and chief solutions officer of Astound Digital. Ilya's journey is the ultimate Silicon Valley story. He immigrated from the Soviet Union as a teenager, teamed up with his best friends, and launched a startup out of his living room. Over the last 20 plus years, he has transformed that scrappy startup into a global powerhouse with over 1,300 specialists across the US, Europe, and Latin America, delivering digital commerce solutions for brands like L'Oreal and Crocs. Today, we're going to dive into how he manages a massive global footprint, his kindness principle of leadership, and the personal hacks that keep a founder sane after 2 decades at the helm. Ilya, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Alex.
It's a pleasure, and I would like to start with a question. I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, and I came across a newly received certificate. It's a vibe coding certificate from Lovable. So you're still learning.
I have to be learning. I have no other choice to stay relevant. So my education is in computer science. I love programming, but I haven't done any development in more than 15 years. Now, with the capabilities that we all have access to related to AI and specifically vibe coding, I'm really enjoying it. I have a number of side projects that I'm working on using Lovable, which gives a lot of power to people who have technical background, but as well as to people who don't.
Can you give us a quick idea what's a vibe coding for people who don't know?
So vibe coding is a funny term that's been assigned to working with LLMs to generate code using natural language, giving commands describing what you want to achieve, and the LLM creates the source code based on those commands, human commands. The great thing about Lovable and other similar platforms is that they provide not only the environment for interacting with LLMs to write code, but also an environment to run the code. So it's an all-inclusive environment where you can create interesting projects. And what's fascinating is that the idea of automating development and coding has been around for 30, 40 plus years. And we as humans have been making progress in making simple things easy to do in automated fashion. It's just every year, and especially with the advent of generative AI, the line of what is easy keeps going up and up and up. And it gives us a lot of capabilities and a lot of power.
So do you think that in a few years you can vibe code on enterprise level software?
So there are different approaches that are being used right now for accelerated automated development. Vibe coding and such tools as Lovable can be used to develop production level, quote unquote, simple solutions. But there is a new direction associated with agent based development. And that is definitely something that is already being used to develop enterprise level software. And there is a new concept of AI native engineering teams that is being piloted by many organizations that will produce results much faster than they used to and will alter how engineering teams operate and collaborate, and already is doing that.
Okay. We'll probably come back to a discussion later in the in our conversation, but let's start with your beginnings. Can we talk a little bit about your childhood, about your family? Where did you grow up and how it shaped you?
Yeah. Um, I was born in Odessa, Ukraine. It was still part of the Soviet Union back then. I was born in a typical Soviet Jewish household. Two parents, engineers. They got education in math and then became computer programmers. So eventually, I became second generation computer programmer in our family. We lived in a communal, what's called communal apartment in Odessa, which is a single kind of apartment shared by multiple families, which is um, an interesting separate story in itself. And then in 1989, as perestroika was changing the way the Soviet Union was run, and thanks to the pressure that was applied by the United States government, and thanks to the pressure of the American Jewish community that applied pressure on the United States government, Soviet Union started letting people out of the country, and we were able to leave Soviet Union. And at the end of 1989, we eventually made it to San Francisco.
And what was it? An easy trip on a plane from Ukraine to nonstop flight, or
Not quite.
it took a little bit?
Not quite. So there was a formal process, bureaucratic process that we had to go through as a family to get permission to leave Soviet Union. And I was just turned 14 at that time. I had to formally sign a paper to allow my parents to take me out of the country.
Wow.
And then we went to Vienna in Austria, where we kind of started the paperwork of applying to get to the United States to get permission to go to the United States. We spent a few weeks in Vienna. Then we, with the help of HIAS, which is a Jewish organization, we moved to Rome, Italy, where we had an interview at U.S. Embassy, and luckily we were allowed to come to the United States, and we came as refugees to the United States and flew from Rome to New York, and then New York to San Francisco.
Do you remember your thoughts when your parents said that we were going to leave and we're going to America? Like, how did you take that when
Not
you were 14
quiet,
years old?
not quite exactly remember my thoughts, but this was in the air. In Odessa, Odessa was, well, maybe 20% Jewish. We at that time we knew lots and lots of people who were leaving. So it was um, uh, at the forefront of many thoughts, if not explicit conversations. So I was not surprised.
So you came here, you went to San Francisco High School.
Yes,
How did you adapt to new environment? Did you have any cultural shocks?
plenty. A funny story. So in the Soviet Union in the 80s, it was cool to have to carry a briefcase to school instead of a backpacks like in the United States. So I brought my favorite briefcase with me from Soviet Union to San Francisco, and for the first half a year, I went to high school with a briefcase. You can imagine the kind of comments and looks I used to get in high school, and then I switched to a backpack.
Got it. So after high school, you went to UC Davis, and you got your bachelor in computer science, and you knew that you wanted to be a developer, a programmer at that point.
And not at that point, much earlier. In fact, at the age of 13, I decided that I wanted to be a computer programmer. I was exposed, as I said, both of my parents were programmers. And growing up, they would bring home punch cards and tapes and have interesting discussions at home, which I barely understood as a child. And then my dad took me to his work, showed computers, and I fell in love with computers. In the Soviet Union, I went to a specialized math class. And in the eighth grade, we had a programming class that was created just for this specialized class. Unfortunately, we didn't have any computers in the school, so we were learning basic, and I was writing basic programs on paper, and the teacher would kind of look at it, oh, okay, that makes sense, works. So that was my first introduction to programming. And then when I came to US, I started taking a class on Pascal, a programming language, and and in the evenings after homework, started doing programming just for fun, learning how to solve problems, creating, interesting problems for myself. I built a simple video game. So I loved it, and when I went to UC Davis, I got bachelor's in computer science and engineering. I wanted to know both the software and a little bit of the hardware associated with it. So I really enjoyed it and really worked hard in college to do well in this area. And then I got lucky and I got my first job out of college in the Silicon Valley, working for Intuit, the maker of Quicken and QuickBooks. And I worked there for a couple of years, then got my master's at Stanford in computer science, and went back to Intuit for another couple of years.
Then this idea came to you, or how did how did you decide to start a business?
So I was never entrepreneurial.
So did you ever make any money with your side hobby, with your programming, using your programming skills
No,
in high school or college?
no, never like that. I was too focused on the studies. So as I said, I was never entrepreneurial. But a friend of mine, he was very entrepreneurial, and in the 90s, as we would spend time together, he would always say, "Oh, what kind of business can we start?" and so on. And so he and another friend approached me based on an idea that they had in their business undergraduate business classes to build a website for selling books online. And then that was mid 90s, so Amazon was just starting up, and there was a point for students who had to pay a lot of money for these textbooks. The idea was to try to address this by reducing the costs and building a website with direct relationships to distributors and automate the process and pass on the savings to the students. So they approached me because they needed someone to actually build it and do the work. And at that time, I was working at Intuit and I was working on desktop development. And this internet thing was kind of felt it was in the air, passing me by. So I wanted to learn how to use internet technology. So I decided that in the evenings I would start building this site. So it took me about a year, and so my friends, they built the relationships, they created relationships with the drop shippers, and I built a site where you could come and search the full book and print database, and we would have information about the inventory from the distributors, the pricing, and so on, and you could place an order, and it automatically would be routed to the distributor and shipped on our behalf, like in a drop ship kind of model. So by the time we were done with this, it was already in 1999, and Amazon was already a high flyer, and we didn't have any money for marketing. So even though the site was running on a DSL connection from my living room, nobody would come to it and make purchases. So we had a discussion and we decided that either we need to do this for real or drop it and move on with our careers, corporate careers. So we decided to take a risk and quote unquote do this for real. And in the year 2000, we started working on this full time. The initial idea was to build a platform for independent booksellers to quickly get online with full integration to distributors and pricing and so on, to compete with Amazon, to have their own online presence. And we built that platform, at least the initial version, and we launched a number of bookstores. Unfortunately, the independent bookstores did not know what the internet was and why they needed it, and didn't have much money as well to pay us. So it was not going well. But we got lucky. And in the year 2000, the dot-com bubble burst, and a lot of companies started going out of business. Some companies that were building their own e-commerce platforms started going out of business and leaving their customers stranded. So we decided that we will pivot and transition into the services business of launching e-commerce sites based on off-the-shelf e-commerce platform that was I used. We decided to use for the book selling platform as a starting point. So at the end of year 2000, I got married and was launching e-commerce sites instead of going for our honeymoon. And we delayed our honeymoon because it was Christmas time, and we had to take a bunch of sites live because otherwise they would miss out on the Christmas holiday sales. And so we went on our honeymoon in January, and the first thing was when we arrived to the hotel. I was notified that there was a fax for me. That was the year beginning in 2001, and I looked at the fax from my business partner saying that there is a problem with one of the sites. So my wife went up to the hotel room, and I went to the office center to work on the issue. So that was
Well, you just described quite a few challenges in the early stages of your startup, and so I'm curious. You said that the things were not going well, and you had to quit your jobs, and you made that decision to go forward with the business, kind of make it official. What was your kind of mindset at that point? So you were taking on so much.
yeah.
How did you kind of process that?
So I was 25 years old when we decided to start the company, and I just got engaged to my wife, and we had a conversation, and I told her that it's now or never. Either I take the risk now and see what pans out, or probably it will never happen because we will start a family, have children, and it will be less conducive to take risks later on. So the mindset was that I wanted to give it a try, even though I was not entrepreneurial by nature. I saw being in Silicon Valley and seeing the craziness, especially of the dot-com boom. It was infectious, and I wanted to try to do something on my own, not just help others build their companies. So that was the initial mindset of the interest and willingness to take the risk.
So just moving forward a few years, what do you think? When did you realize that? Well, we have a business. We can grow this. It's a sustainable model. Did you have a moment like this, or it was kind of all
Yes,
slowly developed?
it definitely was slow. It was gradual, but I would say yes. There was a moment that I realized, yes, there is a business here. And there was another moment much later that I realized that we built and are building something special, which are different points of view and perspectives and realities. So I break down development of our company to a number of phases. The first phase, let's say, first 5 years, we did not know what we were doing. We were learning on the fly, making mistakes, doing a lot of work for free or undercharging. Our customers would take advantage of us, not because they were egregious, but because we would say, oh, we will do this for you, and well, you said you do this for you and do this, and by this we meant it would be like this, not like this. Learning how to manage customer expectations, how to control scope, how to manage relationships in a way that would position us to have long-term mutually beneficial relationships with our customers. That was a huge development and learning process for me as personally and us as a company overall. So that was the first phase. The next phase was like, yeah, we know now, we kind of know what we're doing. Let's operationalize it. Let's try to grow. And that was the next few years. So let's say the first phase was 2000 to 2005. Then up to 2005, let's grow. And then we hit the Great Recession. And half of our clients went out of business. It was very painful for us. We were barely surviving. I took out a credit line for my house to put in cash into the business. My partners also put in some money as well. So we were trying to survive this challenge where we lost a lot of business, a lot of clients. But
And
we got lucky.
is it the right assumption that you haven't taken any outside capital in
So yes, so
growing your firm?
in the year 2000, we took a little bit of money from friends and family, and from then on, it was all bootstrapped. We poured everything that we were making back into the business. It took us probably a decade to get to something resembling market salaries.
But by looking back, do you think it was the right decision to bootstrap, or would you
We,
rather taking some outside capital to scale a little quicker?
there are pros and cons to everything, and we did try to raise money for the original book selling platform business. As I said, there are pros and cons. The benefit, and the huge benefit, and long term, of course, it came out to be much more uh, successful and sustainable for us, was not raising money, going through the pain of slow growth, but being in control. Because if we were to raise money, the company would not have survived this long and would not have lost it. So that's, but the ride would have been different and in some ways maybe easier.
Yeah. So let me take you back to where we left off
Yeah. So
during the great financial crisis.
yeah. So uh, we got lucky again because e-commerce was probably one of the first niches in the market that started growing after the financial crisis. And in the year 2009, we probably recovered most of what business we lost in 2008. And then we started growing rapidly, crazy, crazy rapidly. In 2009, we had probably 50 people. In 2010, 100. 2011, 200. 2012, 350.
But it means that you had a lot of business too,
New
right?
business.
It's not.
Yeah, because we're a services business. So in a services company, before AI, you have no choice but to grow with the headcount. You have more business, you need to add headcount. And we were beneficiaries of the growth in e-commerce that took place starting 2010, especially, and I would say through COVID and through past COVID. So about 12 to 13 years of huge growth in e-commerce.
And were you adding headcount first, or you were sourcing business first?
We definitely were not adding headcount first because, again, since we were bootstrapped company, we did not have the funds to carry a huge bench. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, we were based on the 10 years of experience that we accumulated in the prior decade. We already made certain name for ourselves. We were still a tiny company, and there was so much business, so much opportunities. We formed partnerships with large e-commerce, enterprise e-commerce platform providers, and there was so much business that we couldn't handle it, and we kept hiring nonstop, and we couldn't hire fast enough for a few years to accommodate the growth and the opportunities that we saw in the marketplace.
Okay, and the third stage of your company?
And the third stage of the company is rapid growth. So during the rapid growth, the whole company had to reinvent ourselves. We had to go from a small company that was managed very much hands-on directly by the founders to a company that had more established enterprise processes, more established management team, more established sales, marketing, engineering. We became a global company. I can tell a story of how we scaled globally. So these were huge challenges for us that we did not solve overnight and that we had to be solving at the same time as scaling and delivering quality work for our clients. 2010 to 2014, we had rapid growth. And then in 2014, the war in Ukraine began. And by then we had the large team in Ukraine. And it was a tough year for us. We lost some customers, and new clients did not want to work with us because it was a risk to work with the company that had a significant presence in Ukraine. But then in 2015, we started growing rapidly again, and we tripled from 2015 to 2021 or so. So that was like that third phase of
So
rapid growth.
can you recall maybe a few key decisions that you made that allowed you to scale that quickly and that big?
Yeah. I think the first key decision was in 2006 to open our first office outside of the United States. So, and initially the company was founded in San Francisco, and we had a small team in San Francisco. But in 2006, in the phase two, where we kind of started, we learned what we were doing and let's start growing, we made a decision to build an office in Kiev from scratch. And I went to Kiev, I was interviewing people, I was training people, I was staying up until 3 a.m., working side by side with the team in Ukraine, transferring my knowledge. So that was the first key decision. The second key decision was a conscious decision on my part to start shedding responsibility. And it took me years because I was involved as a main technical guy, I was involved in everything. Communicating with clients during sales, communicating with clients during running implementations, leading engineering team, during development, testing, configuring servers, customer support, everything. I name it, did it all, and in one way or the other. And my conscious decision was that in order for us to scale, I actually had to give up control and get others to do what I was doing and hopefully get them to a stage where they were doing it better than I was before. So that was a very important key decision. And the third one, building out formal processes. So our company is called Astound Commerce at that time, and now it's called Astound Digital. And we invested in documenting how we work with our clients, how we work with each other. And we built what we call Astound Way Solution Framework, which essentially codifies various phases of selling to the customer, taking customer from the sales to beginning of the project, how we start the project, how we work on developing the project, how we test it, how we do user acceptance testing with the client, and how we pass it on to production and support. Outline the roles, phases, processes, roles and responsibilities. It was a multi-year and ever evolving process that we consciously allocated time to invest into. And that was invaluable in helping us scale, in bringing in people from around the world and telling you, going to play this role in the project. Here is what's expected from you.
Got it. Got it. And so let's talk a little bit about that global growth. You had offices in Ukraine, in Bulgaria, Slovakia, Colombia, Turkey, Germany. So let's talk about that growth. How did you select all those places, and how did you manage to keep them all productive and contributing to the growth of the company?
So, as I said, the company was founded in San Francisco by three guys who all came out of Ukraine. So when we decided to set up our first office outside of US, we decided to go to our roots, and we chose Kiev as the capital of Ukraine, the primary center of financial and human resources. So even though I was born in Odessa, we decided to start the office in Kiev. Then, as it took us a couple of years with some false starts to hire the right people with the right mindset and to train them and so on. And then when we started growing rapidly in 2010, we started spreading out in within Ukraine. So we had offices at one time or another in Kiev, Chernihiv, Vinnytsia, Lugansk, Lutsk, Uzhgorod, Mariupol even. So we were spreading out from Kiev, where we had our core group, into other cities where we could tap into the labor markets, hire the right people, and train them.
So it was pretty easy to find talented engineers, developers in Ukraine.
Easy is not necessarily the right term. Yes, there was availability, but nobody knew anything about e-commerce in Ukraine back then. So we had to find people with the right mindset and with the right baseline technical skills. And then we had to teach, just like I was teaching the initial team and key everything that I learned by then about e-commerce. We've established again the Astound Academy that was teaching newcomers how to work with the Astound Way solution framework, with the technologies that we use, with the e-commerce platforms that we use, the best practices that we established. So it was not easy to find people with the right mindset and the technical skills. But one way that we were successful in scaling and growing is establishing boot camps and bringing in people with very basic knowledge, but who were eager and hungry to learn. And we would run these free boot camps in JavaScript, QA, or front end technologies. And the boot camp would last, for example, 2 months. And then the end of the 2 months, out of, let's say, 20 people that we accepted for the boot camp, we would hire, let's say, 5 to 7 best students. And we would run these boot camps once a year, twice a year. As we were growing further, we started running these boot camps in multiple countries at the same time. It's the people who went through these boot camps were extremely thankful to us for teaching them, for giving them knowledge, for bringing into a Western technology company, to for giving them opportunity to develop their careers. They were very loyal, and many of them are still with us at the company. So
Ukraine, yeah, you
yeah,
were
going
all
back,
over.
yes. And then in 2014, we had only two 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 countries where we were present: United States and Ukraine. And as I mentioned before, in 2014, the war began. At first with the annexation of Crimea, and then the war in Donbass, Donetsk region. And it was a major wake up call for the company, not only because we had to move our people from Lugansk office and Mariupol office to the Western Ukraine, not only in terms of taking care of our people, but also in terms of our clients who were calling me and saying, well, of course, I'm very concerned about our team, our people, but I also need to deliver on the business goals for my company. I'm concerned about your ability to deliver. And the people in Ukraine have tremendous respect for me and for many people around the world. They're super dedicated, super hardworking, and they work through displacement and bombings and so on, and which obviously some of it came later on. And we as a company proved that we can continue delivering quality work even with the challenges, so to speak, that are happening in the country. But we as a leadership team in 2014 decided that we need to diversify from Ukraine and really have an insurance policy if God forbid worse happens, which eventually, unfortunately, did. So in 2015, we opened an office in Slovakia, in a small town of Košice, which is only a 2-hour drive from the border with Ukraine, from Uzhgorod, where we had an office on the Ukrainian side. We opened an office in Bulgaria, and then in 2016 we decided to diversify even further and to have an office in South America, so that it aligns with the time zone with North America. So I went down to Colombia and opened up an office in Medellin, Colombia.
And how did you pick Colombia out of all countries in Latin America
Yeah, so
that align with in the same time zone with San Francisco?
So I was the one who started doing research, and I was leading this effort. I looked at various countries, and my approach that I built and I kind of talked about in scaling Ukraine was I want to go somewhere to a country that's up and coming, that has a good talent pool that we wouldn't expect them. We didn't expect people to know e-commerce and technologies that we work with, so we had to train them. So I wanted to find place where there was a labor force that was interested, hungry, and that we could train, retain. So based on that strategy, I decided to rule out the big countries, Mexico, Argentina, and Brazil, where there was a lot of competition for talent. A lot of large enterprises already had offices there. Then I ruled out small countries such as Costa Rica, Paraguay, Uruguay, and so on. And I really focused on three countries, Colombia, Peru, and Chile. And as I was starting to make connections, through my connections, people were kind of explaining to me the pros and cons and so on. And but they were saying there's this one city that is really up and coming that you really should pay attention to. And that city was Medellin in Colombia. And
Did you speak Spanish at that time?
I did not speak any Spanish. So I was introduced to a local government organization in Medellin that's helped that was the task was to help Western companies enter the machine market. So I scheduled some calls with them. They spoke English. I took with me our lawyer who spoke Spanish, and we went down to Medellin. We had a bunch of meetings, and I really liked the city. I really liked the people, and I decided I'm not going to look further, and we decided to go for it in Colombia. And we started looking for people, hiring. Of course, there were also false starts, but eventually we started growing the team, and we had people from Ukraine come to Colombia to train and share the knowledge uh,
Local engineers.
with the Colombian engineers and other other team.
So you have 1,300 people all around the world. How do you manage all these offices? How do you align all of them on your culture and values?
Yeah.
How do you make sure that they produce the best work that you need for your customers?
Yeah, so we grew to about 1,300 by about 2021. And as I mentioned before, I had to evolve as a leader. For many years, I was focused on shedding responsibilities, and then I was transitioning into global leadership. How do I keep these dispersed teams motivated, excited about working together with each other, not only across the cities within one country, but across many countries and continents. By 2021, we added India and Turkey. So it was a challenge, and I had to have a purposeful, focused, dedicated effort. And I started thinking about it from the very beginning of our growth. One of the conscious decisions that I made was I did not want to build teams that are focused or located just in one office. I did not want to have a Kiev team versus Vinnytsia team or versus Colombia and Medellin team because I did not. I wanted everyone to feel that we are part of a large team, and there is no our local team versus competing with some other teams in another city or another country and so on. And that was super conducive to unifying our culture, knowledge sharing. There were downsides to that as well. We had to spend much more time and focus on building processes related to communication across physical offices, across time zones, and so on. But one of the positive side effects later on when COVID hit, it was not a problem for us because we were very used to being a distributed collaborative organization across time zones and across technology. So that was one decision that I made and focused on. Then another one, bringing people together. So we built a company in a very fashion. So on each project, we would take skills from various teams that are needed to execute that project. A developer from here or here and there, and the QA engineer. And on any project, there could be people from 5 different countries, for five different offices, and people did not see each other, did not meet each other. So we would invest a lot into bringing people together. We'll have a summer party, a winter party, bringing people together who work in the same office or in the same country. Sometimes we did the cross country meetups, not too much because it became very expensive, but that was very important from the point of view of building the culture. And of course, we were investing into offices, building office culture, bringing people together in a casual manner. We've built a middle layer management, and the managers would travel around their various offices and countries to meet with people, to see the people who report to them. So we've invested a lot in these communications, but also an overall mindset. I used to travel a lot, visiting. I was trying to visit every office at least once or a year, or once every 2 years. And then again, at the time when we started growing, we've established a set of core values for the company that we formally documented based on how we've already been running the business up to then. It was about 2009 or so. So these core values were not only on paper, but it was something that I tried to live by and show how decisions are made, difficult decisions that are on a day-to-day basis. The values that we came up with are, you know, not generic, but some of them are very common. Integrity, respect, passion, commitment, continuous improvement, shared success, teamwork. Just saying those words is not enough. It's important to live by them, to explain to the people why we're making these decisions the way we are, how we take care of each other, how we make sure that we have shared success with our client. On top of these core values, we came up with principles for how we apply these values. So the principles were, first we take care of our people, then we take care of our clients, and then we take care of the company. The intent is and was that if and when we take care of our people will take care of our clients, and our clients will take care of the success of our clients. Through shared success, we'll take care of the success of the business.
Right.
And sometimes we had to make difficult decisions where priority of making sure an individual is successful sometimes at the cost of our clients' ideas and changes. So we had to adapt in how we apply these principles.
And can I ask you about the kindness principle that you used in your leadership that you shared with me before?
Yeah. So I think the kindness principle ties in what I was just was saying. How do you apply the values that you talk about? How do you interact with people? And beyond the values and the principles, there's also how I um, interact, how I lead. Here are a few examples. I always lead with thank you. Thank you to our people for the hard work that they do. Thank you for their initiative. Thank you for taking care of our clients, taking care of each other. So leading with thank you is super important. Leading with servant leadership mindset. So it's a term that was coined quite many years ago, but to me, servant leadership is really about making sure that you care about the problems that your people bring to you as much or sometimes even more than they do, to listen to them, to really understand where they're coming from and help them address their challenges. As a leader, ultimately, I learned that my success is all about making sure that the people who work under me and in general in the organization, that they are successful in executing on the projects and goals that we establish for them. Our approach to promotions. For example, in some corporations, promotions are done only on the as needed basis. The approach that I took with the promotions is to take care of the people first. If the person is already performing at the next level, it doesn't matter if we have a formal need for the next level in the organization. If the person is performing that next level, he or she deserves to be promoted. The person should be promoted and operate in the company and be recognized for that next level of performance and encouraged to continue developing further. Leadership in terms of paying attention to details and taking care of little things. A while ago, someone said leaders who are good at big things have to and are good at little things as well. For example, I pride myself at responding to every single email and Slack message within 24 hours. It's very important to me to show that I care about, again, it goes back to servant leadership. I care about what the people are coming to me with and really trying to either address the issue myself or redirect them to someone who can help them. So these are personal principles that go to the next level of detail beyond corporate principles that impact how you interact with people and how you approach
Yeah,
deal with
that's amazing. Thank you for sharing. I want to ask you a few questions about the sales side of your business. You work with huge names in retail, and you've done websites and e-commerce solutions for Crocs, for L'Oreal and Adidas. And do you remember the time when you got your first big name customer, and
yeah.
what did it do?
Yeah, I have a crazy story about that. It was 2002, and uh, by then we had a few clients. Most of them were mail order catalogers, and we did a good job for them, and so they were happy with us. And then a CEO for one of our clients, a cataloger, left and started doing consulting. And he reached out to my business partner, and because he was doing consulting for a company called Ubid. So for some of you probably don't know who Ubid was, but it was an auction type of site competing with eBay, and they wanted to build a regular e-commerce direct to consumer site that does not use auction. And they wanted to do a dropship kind of model similar to what we did with the books. And so my partner Igor got a call from this guy. Said, "Well, I'm working with Ubit, and they're looking to get a solution from another company, a large company, and it's expensive. And I know you guys know about this stuff, and you did a great job for us at the other company. Why don't you come and talk to the Ubid leadership?" And um, it was probably end of September. It was a Wednesday, and Igor and I bought red-eye tickets to Chicago, and we flew on a Thursday morning. We arrived at the UBID office and started talking with them about what they wanted to accomplish and explaining what we know about it, how we would go about it, how it could be done. And they started bringing in more and more people from different teams, and how about this and how about that. And we were kind of explaining to them and like really showed that we knew what we were talking about. And then we had our flight back around 5 p.m. and we were started saying like we have to go back to the airport, and said no, why don't you change your flights, delay your flights to later today? We want to have some more meetings, so we delay our flights. And then At the end of the day, they say, well, we want our CTO to fly with you to San Francisco so that you show your office, your data center where you host. And we were at like a less than 10-person company back then. Okay, we say fine. So the guy flew with us, and I took him to show our data center. I guess it checked out okay based on the 2002 standards. The guy flew back, and then on Monday they said we want to go with you, but they wanted to go live by Thanksgiving, and it was only like I don't know 6 or 8 weeks to Thanksgiving, and we started working on it immediately. So I would get to the office around 8 a.m. It was 10 a.m. in Chicago, so we'd start to have meetings every hour. I had a meeting with a different team discussing details of what we were building, a very agile kind of way of working. By 3 p.m., I was done with meetings, and in parallel, from 8 to 3, I was telling in parallel the developers that I had, here's what we're building, here, go do this. Then from 3 p.m. to midnight, I would do development myself, and I would go home, sleep for a little bit, and then start over again with breaks for meetings, not for work, over the weekend. So over that 8 weeks, I lost 10 pounds, got 2 speeding tickets, and the night before Thanksgiving, everything was already in production, and kind of I was checking everything, but the site was not performing well. It was slow and so on. And it's like 11 p.m. and Igor and I are on the phone. And it's like, and I tell Igor, I'm going to continue working on it to try to figure out what's going on, and so that it's ready to go live tonight. And you go to sleep, because in the morning, if I'm not successful, you'll be yelled at. Please get some sleep so that you're ready. And so Igor tells his side of the story. He wakes up at like 7 a.m., checks his phone. Back then, it was before smartphones, so no voice messages. Okay, so he goes back to sleep. Then at 8 a.m., he checks, oh, no messages. Okay. Then he boots up his computer, and the site is live and operational. During the night, I figured out that there was an issue with an index, database index that was resolved, and the site performed. So it was a major, major big deal for us as a company. It was a foundational project that not only showed the use case of us working on a large project, but also gave us financial boost that we did not have before.
No, that's a great story.
Yeah.
That's a great story. So let's talk about your own productivity hacks. How do you organize your day, your work? I know there's a lot of AI tools right now to kind of optimize it. What do you use?
So in terms of organizing my day, I get up early, 5:30 or something, and usually I have early meetings. I either exercise in the morning or have early 6 a.m. Meetings and so on. I've established this schedule back in 2010, probably. So it's been over 15 years like this, and I really like it from the personal point of view. Since I'm on the West Coast, I start my day early, and I first talk to the people in Europe, then people on the East Coast, and people on the West Coast. But then by 3 p.m., pretty much everyone is done and is gone for the day, and I can wrap up, and then I can have the evening with my family, especially as the kids were growing up. I could always have dinner together and so on. And then in the evening, after kids went to sleep, I would work some more to catch up on other things. So that's from the high level organization of the day. From the point of view of organizing myself to make sure that answer all the emails within 24 hours, and so in the morning I quickly scan the emails. I answer quickly. If something requires a very quick answer, then I answer immediately. Otherwise, I tag the email for later on more detailed review and response. And at the end of the day, I go through all the tags and deeply read the email, think about and respond appropriately. With the advent of I became a huge user of generative AI. So we at Astound, we are a Google shop. So we have Gemini. So Gemini is our tool of choice. Essentially, I stopped doing searches. Everything that I need to research, find out, I go to Gemini to search and to learn. I use generative AI for various tricks in manipulating data, creating documents. So that, from productivity point of view, generating simple scripts and code for Excel spreadsheets, or just scripts that I can run in the shell in the operating system. So I don't have like AI assistants and things like that. I'm maybe too old school for that. I don't know, but I incorporate these tools the way I feel are beneficial for me, and I'm definitely all in on generative AI.
So let's wrap up with a few questions on the future of your company and the recent transaction you've done with a few years ago. You sold a major stake in the company to a private equity shop. How did you came to that decision? What was the kind of the triggers and intent with
Mhm. So we sold majority stake of the company in 2021 to private equity. There were a few reasons for that. As I mentioned before, we bootstrapped essentially the company, and we poured all our um, assets and time and effort into the company. And over a period of 20 years, we were able to scale it to a significant size. Having said that, we saw additional opportunity for further growth. And we realized that we can't self fund anymore, or not anymore, but in order for us to achieve the ambitions and vision that we saw, that we needed a financial partner. So that was one reason. Another reason was that we needed to continue to grow from the point of view of the management team and advisory and so on, growing into a large enterprise. So we hoped that with this transaction, we would get that as well. So those were the primary drivers of the transaction. And it's hard to believe that it's been already 5 years. The world has changed in these 5 years, not only geopolitically, but also from the point of view of COVID and the economy and AI. Some of our dreams did not get fulfilled, unfortunately. But ultimately, my goal as I was building this company, I wanted to have a company that would survive me as an individual, that would be able to continue and grow and exist without my direct involvement. And ultimately, I was able to achieve this goal. Now I'm only partially part-time involved in the company, and it's being run by professional management team. So it, it's definitely different from how it used to be.
on the personal level? How did you feel when you signed that paper with that you closed that transaction? You give up your control and ownership of the company that you poured so much energy, so much time and sweat into building.
I would say I was full of anticipation and hopeful and full of positivity. In retrospect, as I said, not everything was fulfilled the way we hoped it would be for a variety of reasons. But of course, it was a moment of validation, a moment of validation of over 2 decades of very hard work. I was proud of what we were able to achieve. I was proud not as much of the geographic footprint and so on. Yeah, that's also it's great. But what I'm most proud of has always been that we gave opportunity to thousands of people to establish and develop their careers around the world. We were able to influence the course of a major global trend of e-commerce. We've delivered value to our clients where they were able to generate tens of billions of dollars in sales based on the work that we've done. We were able to support experience of millions of consumers around the world. We've launched sites in 50 plus countries around the world. So that's what I'm most.
Well, that's great. It's a great success story. My last question: what advice would you give to a 20-year-old self, given all the knowledge, all the experience you have right now?
My main advice would be to take risks. And sometimes it's so difficult, so easy to maintain the status quo. Without taking that risk, you will never know what happened. That's on the one side. On the other side, what I've learned over these many years is sometimes success goes, whatever the definition of success is, but goes to the people who don't quit. And you have to be mindful about when and how you should stop something and start something different, or not stop and continue with it. There were years at Astound where things didn't look rosy, and it was relatively easy to say forget it and move on to a corporate career. And working hard and working through these challenges what allowed us to achieve ultimate success that we did.
Congratulations on your journey, Ilya. It was a pleasure talking to you. You definitely took a lot of risks. You built an amazing global company, and it's something to be proud of. And thank you so much for this wonderful conversation.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
Alex, for your time. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.